What if I told you that some of the most extraordinary people you'll ever hear about aren't on any stage, aren't trending, and haven't been mentioned in years? People who didn't make a splash in their 20s. People who were invisible in their 30s. People who walked through their 40s without applause, without recognition, without even a whisper of validation. People so forgotten by society that even their friends stopped asking, "How's it going?" They were deemed too late, not made for greatness, just another ordinary life. And then one day, without warning, they reappear. Not with noise, not with drama, but with an undeniable presence. Something about them has shifted. A calm certainty, a quiet power, a level of clarity and execution that makes everyone stop and wonder, where have they been hiding? How did someone like that, so overlooked, so underestimated, suddenly rise and move the world? Welcome to Success Lesson, where we don't just talk about winning, we talk about becoming, where each pause is a chance to reflect and each lesson is a step closer to living a life with meaning. And today we're starting with a truth that might shake you. Some people don't bloom early because their roots are growing deeper than you can imagine. You don't see them because they're not rushing. They're not trying to be seen. They're not playing the game of "look at me." They're playing a longer game, one you can't understand if all you measure is speed. You see, the world is obsessed with early achievers. We idolize the ones who built a startup at 22, who bought a house at 25, who led a team of 100 people before they could rent a car without a cosigner. But what no one tells you is how many of those people burn out just as fast. How many of them achieved early because they rushed without understanding who they were or why they were running in the first place. Meanwhile, there are people walking beside us who aren't rushing. They're observing, they're learning, they're failing quietly, they're rebuilding without announcements, they're choosing depth over exposure. And we miss them because we're not trained to notice what's growing underground. These are the people who scare you after they arrive, because you can't trace their trajectory. You can't explain their confidence. You can't figure out how they're this good when you never even saw them coming. But if you looked closer, you'd see it wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. It was preparation, carried out in silence, across years, without recognition. It was years of not being called on, years of not being picked, years of being told, "You're not ready," until one day, they were. And here's the scariest part. Some of those people might be watching this video right now. Some of them might be you. Maybe you've spent the last few years feeling invisible. You're not on anyone's radar. You're not getting the promotion. You're not getting the recognition. Your work is overlooked. Your efforts are ignored. Maybe you feel behind, late to life. Like everyone else got some secret map and you're still figuring out which direction is forward. But what if I told you, you're not late? You're right on time. You're simply in the hidden chapter of your story, the one where no one claps, no one cheers, and no one knows you're building something extraordinary. And because no one is watching, you have the gift of freedom. Freedom to fail, to grow, to become without pressure or pretense. There's something sacred about being unknown, something powerful about not being expected to shine yet. Because when you do finally step forward, it won't be noise. It'll be impact. And that impact will land harder than anything rushed or rehearsed. You don't need the world to cheer for you right now. You just need to keep preparing. Keep sharpening your craft. Keep becoming the kind of person who, when the moment arrives, steps up like they've been ready their entire life. Because they have. If this message is stirring something inside you, if you feel like it's speaking to you, not just around you, then you're exactly who this channel was made for. Subscribe to Success Lesson if you believe in meaningful growth over empty noise. Your support is the fuel that allows us to keep bringing you stories, tools, and reflections that go beyond hype and reach your core. Before we continue, I want to leave you with a small but powerful question. Think about it honestly. Then leave your answer in the comments. Which path would you choose if no one else could see your progress? A. Win early to prove you're not falling behind. B. Prepare quietly, even if no one notices, until your time is truly right. Comment your answer below, A or B, and if you feel like adding Y, your insight might just be the message someone else needs to hear today. We live in an age that worships urgency. Everything is a race. Faster success, faster results, faster recognition. We scroll past 1-minute success stories, measure self-worth in quarterly achievements, and panic if we're not constantly making progress. Somewhere along the way, we began to believe that patience is weakness. That if we're not sprinting, we're stagnant. That if we're not producing visible results, we're falling behind. But here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Some of the most powerful transformations in life are slow, painfully slow. They're not broadcasted. They don't come with applause. They don't look like much from the outside. And yet, those moments, those quiet, deliberate, unseen days, are often where the most meaningful growth happens. Patience has been mistaken for passivity, but real patience is anything but passive. It's one of the most courageous and demanding forms of strength you can cultivate, because patience requires you to show up without a guarantee, to invest without immediate return, to keep walking when no one is watching and no one is clapping. When you're patient, you're choosing process over proof. You're placing trust in a trajectory that hasn't yet shown you results. You're saying, I believe in what I'm building, even if no one else can see it yet. And that belief, that quiet, unwavering belief, becomes your internal compass. It's what keeps you moving when the world is distracted by quick wins and shiny shortcuts. Think of a craftsman. He doesn't rush his work to impress. He shapes, refines, polishes, not for recognition, but because he knows the value of what he's creating. He's not in competition with noise. He's in communion with quality. That's what patience does for you. It pulls you out of the performance and back into purpose. But let's be honest, patience is brutal. It tests your spirit in ways nothing else does. You'll watch others pass you by. You'll see peers celebrated for things you know you could do better. You'll feel overlooked, underappreciated, forgotten. There will be days when you wonder if your discipline is worth it, if your time is being wasted. You'll ask yourself, why not me? Why not now? In those moments, it's easy to want to quit. It's easy to choose visibility over integrity, to abandon the long game for short-term praise, to fake it, rush it, or force it. But that's when you have to remember, anyone can go fast, but very few people have the patience to go far. Going far means staying the course when no one sees your effort. It means doing the hard, unglamorous work, learning, unlearning, failing, rebuilding. Going far means building roots so deep that when the storms come, and they will, you're not shaken, you're grounded. It's in those invisible seasons of waiting, of working in silence, that you develop something unshakable. Character, grit, emotional resilience, clarity. These are the things that can't be fast-tracked. They have to be earned, slowly, deliberately, with intention. And here's the thing, the world doesn't often reward patience until it does. And when it does, it's not with fleeting validation. It's with a sense of mastery, with depth, with the kind of impact that can't be replicated by speed alone. When you're patient, you're not just waiting, you're preparing, you're refining. You're proving to yourself that your commitment isn't conditional on outcomes. You're showing that what you're building matters more than how fast you finish. The most enduring success stories weren't written in highlight reels. They were written in the spaces where no one was looking. The mornings someone got up early to study, not because anyone told them to, but because they were building something for themselves. The nights someone stayed late, not to impress their boss, but to improve their craft. The hours spent editing, adjusting, redoing, not because the first version was bad, but because the second version deserved better. That's patience. It's discipline without applause, work without witnesses, belief without evidence, and it's rare. That's why it's so powerful. In a world that's constantly shouting, go faster, choosing patience is a radical act of self-trust. It's telling yourself, I am worth the time. My dreams are worth the time, and the foundation I'm laying will matter more than any shortcut ever could. You won't always feel motivated. You won't always feel confident. Some days you'll feel like giving up. But if you can keep going anyway, if you can practice patience, not just once, but as a way of life, you'll wake up one day and realize what looked like nothing happening was actually everything you needed. So if you're in that season now, if you're moving slowly, if you're building in silence, if you're doing the work without recognition, don't resent it. Embrace it. This is where it begins. This is where real strength is formed. Because patience isn't the opposite of action. It's the soul of preparation. And when the moment arrives, you won't have to scramble. You won't have to fake it. You'll already be ready because you were building the entire time. There's a moment in life that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with warning signs or trumpet sounds. It arrives quietly, disguised as any other day. You wake up, brush your teeth, go about your routine, and somewhere in the middle of the ordinary, it happens. The moment you've been preparing for. And if you're not ready, you won't even recognize it. That's the thing about timing. It doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't wait until you feel confident. It won't delay itself until you're perfectly aligned. It simply shows up. And in that one fragile window of time, everything can shift if you're prepared. We often talk about success as something we chase. We strategize, plan, hustle, optimize. We look for the right connections, the right moments, the right moves. But what we rarely realize is that success is less about chase and more about alignment. And alignment doesn't happen when you rush. It happens when you're ready, deeply and fully, in ways no one else can see. The truth is, opportunity isn't rare. What's rare is the person who's done the work behind the scenes. The person who's been practicing, refining, failing forward. The person who doesn't just want the spotlight, but can carry it when it finally lands on them. Because that's what timing demands of you. Not ambition, not desire, but readiness. Think of all the times you felt left behind, when you saw others soaring past you, when your inbox was empty, when your phone didn't ring, when you kept showing up, but the world didn't seem to care. Maybe you wondered, is this really worth it? Is anyone even watching? What if I told you, someone was watching? Time was, life was, the future you're building was. And it wasn't testing your results, it was testing your consistency, your humility, your resilience. It was asking, can I trust you with the moment that's coming? Because when that moment finally does arrive, and it will, you won't get to rehearse. You won't get a script. You'll have to respond in real time. You'll have to act without hesitation. And the only thing that will carry you through is all the preparation you've done when no one was watching. This is why some people seem to explode overnight. They didn't. What they did was wait for their moment, and they earned it in silence. They spent years building something solid, so when the winds changed, they didn't get blown away. They rose, anchored, not lucky. And here's the painful side of this truth. Many people miss their moment, not because they're not talented, but because they weren't ready. Some arrive too soon, full of potential, but not grounded enough to sustain it. Others come too late, worn out from chasing everything except what truly mattered. Some walk right past it because they never believed it would come, so they stopped looking. You can't force timing, but you can respect it. You can honor the invisible rhythms of life by preparing like it will happen. By treating today like a rehearsal for a moment that could change everything. Not with pressure, but with purpose. Timing is sacred because it's unpredictable, and that's why it favors the prepared. Not the loudest, not the most followed, not even the most gifted, but the one who stayed ready, the one who didn't waste the quiet season, the one who kept the fire burning low, steady, and alive, long enough for the spark to catch when the conditions were finally right. We've all heard the phrase, right place, right time. But rarely do we ask, are you the right person when the time comes? Are you someone who can walk through the door when it opens? Or will you hesitate because you never believed it would? That's the real question. Because timing doesn't care about your doubts. It doesn't slow down for your insecurities. When the door swings open, it needs someone ready to walk through with courage, not perfection. With clarity, not noise. So if you're in a season right now where nothing is moving, where it feels like you're stuck in the shadows, don't rush out. Don't panic. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. These days of invisibility might be the very foundation you'll stand on when your name is finally called. Be the person who's ready. Ready not just for attention, but for impact. Ready not just to be seen, but to serve in the moment that asks everything of you. Because the moment is coming. Not when you expect it, not how you imagine it, but when you're finally prepared to carry the weight of it without breaking. And when it comes, you won't have to chase it. You'll simply step into it, not because you got lucky, but because you lived like it was always on its way. The world today is loud, louder than it's ever been. Notifications, headlines, opinions, comparisons, expectations. We wake up to noise, we go to sleep with noise, and somewhere in between, we lose ourselves in the current. We react before we think. We speak before we listen. We run before we even know where we're going. It's not that we're living, we're simply responding, constantly, endlessly, to everything and everyone, except the one voice that matters most, our own. In this chaos, one quality becomes more rare and more powerful than ever: inner stillness. Stillness isn't the absence of thought. It's the ability to hold space for thought to form without being hijacked by fear or impulse. It's not weakness. It's not inaction. It's not detachment from the world. It is, in fact, the most grounded form of engagement, a decision to observe before absorbing, to understand before reacting, to breathe before moving. When your mind is still, you don't stop participating in life. You start participating on your terms. You begin to see through the clutter. You begin to discern what's urgent versus what's important. You begin to realize that just because something is loud doesn't mean it's true. Just because something is trending doesn't mean it's relevant to your journey. But stillness doesn't come naturally, not in this age. It must be created, protected, nurtured. Because everything around you is designed to pull you away from it. The world sells distraction. It glorifies speed. It monetizes your attention. And if you're not careful, your mind becomes a battlefield for ideas that were never yours to begin with. Your energy gets spent reacting to life, not living it. Stillness is what separates clarity from confusion. It's what allows leaders to make wise decisions in the middle of crisis. It's what allows artists to hear the whispers of creativity underneath the noise of the market. It's what allows ordinary people to live with extraordinary awareness. Because when the world screams, "Do more," stillness invites you to ask, why? The person who can remain centered in a storm isn't disconnected, they're anchored. They've trained themselves not to panic at the first sign of discomfort. They've chosen to trust a deeper wisdom that doesn't shout, but gently waits to be heard. And in that space, they find something most people never do: peace that isn't circumstantial. The mind, when still, becomes a mirror. It reflects what truly matters. It reveals what's real beneath what's urgent. And it's in that clarity that our most important decisions are made. Not when we're scrolling, not when we're surrounded by noise, but when we're alone with our thoughts and honest enough to face them. Stillness teaches you that presence is power. That being here, fully, deeply, without distraction, is the rarest and richest experience you can have. Because it's in presence that you connect, not just to people, but to purpose, to calling, to meaning. When you're present, you don't just hear what someone says, you feel what they're trying to express. You don't just complete tasks, you bring intention to them. You don't just move through life, you experience it with depth and memory and heart. And yet stillness isn't easy. It will force you to confront things you've been avoiding, the insecurities hide behind busyness, the wounds that surface in silence, the discomfort of not being constantly stimulated. It's easier to stay distracted than to face yourself, but nothing grows in distraction, only numbness. Growth demands awareness. Awareness demands space, and space is only possible through stillness. This is why the most grounded people you'll ever meet tend to speak less, but say more. They show up calmly, but leave an unforgettable impact. They move slowly, but everything they do has weight. It's not because they're trying to be impressive. It's because they're not operating from noise. They're operating from knowing. You don't need to escape the world to find stillness. You don't need a retreat or a perfect morning routine. Stillness can happen in the chaos. It must happen in the chaos, if it's going to mean anything. It can happen in a breath, in a pause, in a moment of choosing not to react, in the decision to wait before answering, to listen longer than you speak, to take a walk without your phone, to write something without sharing it, to let silence do its work before you do yours. When you learn to be still, you become more than just productive. You become present. And presence doesn't just change how you experience the world, it changes how the world experiences you. In a time when everyone is rushing to be seen, those who can master stillness will stand out, not because they're louder, but because they're clearer. Not because they're everywhere, but because they're exactly where they need to be, with themselves, with others, with life. And that is what changes everything. Some people live their entire lives trying to fit into paths that were never meant for them. They chase goals they never questioned, timelines they never set, and standards they never chose. And somewhere along the way, they lose the most important thing they had: their own rhythm, their own truth, their own journey. We're conditioned to believe that life is a series of checkpoints, and that success must happen by a certain age or it no longer counts. Graduate by 22. Land a career by 25. Own a home by 30. Be established by 35. And if you miss those benchmarks, you're seen as someone who didn't make it. But what if all of that was wrong? What if you weren't supposed to move at the speed of everyone else? What if your path was never meant to be linear or fast or even recognizable? What if your journey was always going to look different because you are different? You are not here to repeat someone else's timeline. You are not here to prove anything to a crowd that doesn't even understand what you're building. You are here to become who you were meant to be, fully, deeply, unapologetically. And that will never happen if you're constantly looking sideways, comparing your progress to someone else's pace. Comparison is one of the most dangerous distractions in life. It's subtle, persistent, and incredibly destructive. It tells you that you're behind when you're not. It tells you that your work doesn't matter because it doesn't look like someone else's. It convinces you to abandon your process for someone else's highlight reel. But the truth is, nothing valuable can grow in a soil of comparison. Growth needs authenticity, it needs patience, and it needs trust in the process that's yours, not borrowed from someone else. There's something sacred about honoring your own journey, especially when it's slower, less flashy, or misunderstood. It requires courage to say, "This is where I am, and I trust it." It takes strength to keep going when your story doesn't make sense to the outside world. But those who stay true to their path, even when it's unclear, are often the ones who discover the deepest kind of fulfillment. Because it's not about how fast you get there, it's about who you become on the way. The real measure of success is not just arriving, it's arriving whole, with your integrity intact, with your values preserved, with your sense of self deepened, not diminished, with the kind of wisdom that only comes from choosing your own road, stumbling through it, learning from it, and owning it fully. The people who walk their own path are often the quiet ones, the ones who don't need validation at every step. They're not trying to impress, they're trying to live. Their impact isn't always immediate, but it's lasting, because what they build comes from depth. And depth always leaves a mark. It's easy to get distracted by the pressure to prove yourself, to make noise, to be seen. But noise fades, applause dies out, trends disappear. What lasts is the life you build when no one is watching. The habits, the choices, the self-respect. That is the foundation of a meaningful life. And that's why preparation matters. The person who waits for the perfect opportunity before starting is rarely ready when it finally arrives. But the one who prepares in silence, who works when no one is clapping, who improves when no one is watching, is the one who moves with quiet confidence when the door opens. Because they've already become the kind of person who belongs in that room. They didn't wait to be chosen. They chose themselves long before anyone else noticed. There's a hidden dignity in staying consistent without an audience, in doing the hard work with no guarantees, in building slowly, intentionally, with care. It's not glamorous, it won't go viral, but it creates something that speed never will: resilience, clarity, and depth of character. You don't need to be everywhere. You don't need everyone's approval. You don't even need to arrive according to anyone's timeline. You just need to keep becoming, keep refining, keep honoring the quiet pull inside you that says, this is your way, even if it's not theirs. Because one day, when you do arrive, on your own terms, in your own time, you'll realize that you didn't just reach a destination, you earned it. With every small step, every private struggle, every moment you chose authenticity over applause. And when you look back, it won't matter that it took longer. It'll matter that you didn't quit, that you didn't trade your soul for speed, that you didn't rush a story that needed time to unfold. This is your journey. Make it yours, fully, boldly, slowly if it has to be, but make it true. Because success that aligns with your values, your voice, and your vision, that's not just achievement, that's legacy. In a world that glorifies urgency, speed, and visibility, it's easy to forget that the most powerful lives are often built in silence. This journey we've walked together, from understanding late bloomers, to honoring the strength of patience, to recognizing the sacred timing of life, to cultivating stillness, and finally to embracing your own path, leads to one profound truth. You don't have to rush to become someone of worth. You are not behind. You are becoming. And everything you need is already unfolding, quietly, deeply, perfectly, on your terms. True success isn't about how fast you arrive or how many people see you. It's about how fully you become the person you were meant to be. It's about building a life that can withstand storms, not just attract praise. It's about walking with integrity, making peace with your pace, and trusting that what is meant for you won't pass you by as long as you are preparing for it. We live in a culture that makes us feel like if we're not constantly winning, we're losing. But life is not a game of speed. It's a journey of alignment. And when you finally align your values, your effort, and your sense of timing, everything changes. Not because the world finally sees you, but because you finally see yourself. The lesson is this: depth beats speed, presence beats pressure, preparation beats performance, and your path, no matter how different, has value if you're willing to walk it with courage and consistency. So how do you apply this today? Start by slowing down. Listen to your life. Ask yourself not where you should be, but where you are. Reflect on whether you're living for approval or living in alignment. Replace comparison with curiosity. Instead of asking, why not me? Ask, what can I build right now, quietly with intention? Use this season, whatever season you're in, to prepare, not panic. Because when your moment comes, and it will, the world won't need you to prove anything. They'll see the depth, they'll feel the difference, and you'll know you didn't wait in vain. You were building something real. If this message speaks to something deep inside you, I invite you to join our community at Success Lesson, where we explore truths like this and support each other in living more intentional, resilient, and meaningful lives. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel to help us keep creating more soul-deep content that empowers your journey. Your support is what fuels every future message, and we're just getting started.